Helo, noswaith dda, croeso I amser stori y Fenter. Welcome to the Venture Story Time, and I have literally ran up the stairs to get here in time today, so we're probably going to be a little bit all over the place, but bear with me. So where are we? We are Saturday, the 11th of April, so let's find out what's been going on this day. So, on this day, in 1755, James Parkinson, an English surgeon, was the first person to describe Parkinson's disease, so today is World Parkinson's Day. Also in 1935, Richard Berry was born, and today is International Louie Louie Day, which hopefully you can hear in the background. Also in 1970, Apollo 13 was launched. You may know about Apollo 13, but if you don't, wait a couple of days and you'll find out. Also in 1976, the Apple I computer, the first Apple device, which we all know now from our phones, was launched. And in 1969, Cerys Matthews, the Welsh musician and songwriter, was born. So Penblwydd Hapus to Cerys Matthews, who most of you will probably know from Catatonia, I guess. So there you go, that's what's been happening on this day. But it's time to return to the Demon Headmaster. For those of you who've not been joining us, we've met Dinah Glass. She is a foster child who has gone to Mr. and Mrs. Hunter's house. She's met Lloyd and Harvey, who both live there, and they attend a very strange school. They're part of a small group who are not with everybody else, because at this school everybody is really well behaved. They comb their hair at the gate and straighten their hats. They're all very well behaved, revising in the playground. It's all a very bit strange. Dinah's met the headmaster, who is also a very strange man. He's got these green eyes and he stares into your eyes. And Dinah, on her first day, fell asleep in his office for several hours. Then she went to a special assembly and she realised that the Demon Headmaster was trying to hypnotise everybody. And in the last chapter, Harvey looked into the assembly hall and witnessed what was happening in there. So now we join in at chapter 6, which is called Snow, which is quite opposite to what we'll probably be seeing outside of our windows today. By the way, I hope you've all been enjoying the lovely weather. I went and sat out in the garden earlier, so please leave a comment to let us know that you're watching. I can't always see who's there, so please give us a shout out in the comment section so I know who is out there. But for now, get yourself settled in, grab yourself nice drink, lovely Panado Day, a cup of tea, and we will begin with chapter 6, Snow. Dinah sat up in bed for a long time that night, a stiff little figure in a white nightdress hugging her knees. She knew that there was something wrong about the school, with its well-behaved children all doing the right thing at the right moment, but she could not understand what it was, and she knew that she did not like the headmaster at all. She could not understand why she kept saying how wonderful he was. She hated not understanding things. In the end, she did what she always did when things baffled her. Slipping quietly out of bed, she pulled back the curtains so that the room was lit by moonlight from outside. Then she went to stand in front of the mirror. Pale and prim, her reflection stared back at her, the eyes thoughtful and the mouth pursed, considering. "Well," she murmured, "what's wrong? Why is the school so peculiar?" Gazing into her own eyes, she suddenly knew the answer. Fear. It's because they're all afraid. She nodded briskly. Yes, that was the right answer. But what are they afraid of? The reflection stared back at her, unwinking, and she heard the reply in her head. That's what you'll have to find out. How? But she'd hardly needed to ask. The answer to that one was obvious. You'll have to be naughty and see what happens. Her hands, clasped on top of the dressing table, began to shake slightly, but the face that looked back at her out of the mirror was amused. "See? You're afraid yourself, and you don't know why." Defiantly, she stuck her chin up and pulled her face at the mirror. "I don't care if I am scared," she said out loud. "I want to know. And if that's the only way to find out, then that is what I'll do." With a determined hand, she closed the curtains and climbed back into bed, feeling as though she'd settled something. Curling up under the covers, she fell asleep, trying to think of something bad that she could do. So she's decided if she does something naughty, she might figure out what it is she needs to be afraid of and what everybody else is afraid of. When the morning came, she was still considering. She did not expect Lloyd and Harvey to speak to her after their quarrel the day before, and she came down to breakfast in a proud silence, not saying anything, even to Mrs. Hunter. But things were a bit different. Something had happened that she had not counted on. It had finally snowed. Outside in the garden, a white, unbroken sheet stretched across the grass, gleaming in the crisp, clear light. And Harvey was so excited that he'd forgotten about everything else. He wriggled delightedly in his chair. "Oh, I wish we didn't have to go to school today, don't you, Di?" "Sky blue sandwiches," said Lloyd, snorting, his mouth full of porridge. "Do you ever want to go to school?" "No, but it's different today," Harvey said earnestly. "If we stayed at home, we could build a snowman and have a snowball fight and... Oh, Mum, couldn't we?" "Don't be silly, dear," Mrs. Hunter said placidly. "There's no point in asking questions like that. Just make sure that you wrap up warmly. You know that the cold's bad for your chest." She hovered over them while they dressed, insisting on bundling Harvey up in extra scarves and gloves until he looked like a little round parcel. And all the time he was hopping up and down, peering longingly out of the window at the snow. When she finally let them go, Harvey ran joyfully outside and kicked his boots about, scattering a fine dust of snow. "Oh, it's beautiful! It's lovely! Don't you think it's gorgeous, Di?" "Yes, I like snow," she said dreamily. "We used to have terrific snowball fights at the children's home. The sort where you'd pick sides and built up a great stockpile of snowballs before you start." "Fantastic!" Harvey reached down for a handful of snow. "Come on," Lloyd said crossly. "We'll be late for school." Harvey's face dropped. Still deep in her own thoughts, Dinah said, "We could always have a snowball fight in the playground in morning playtime." She was so busy thinking of her own plans for the day that she did not notice how Harvey brightened and started to whistle. All she could think of was that she'd found a good way to be naughty. She was so busy, in fact, that she walked into school and into her classroom in a daze. It was not until she was sitting at her desk that she realised that she'd automatically moved into line and marched in with the others, as if she'd been told what to do. But she did not remember having ever been told what to do. Before she'd had time to work that one out, however, she had another surprise. Mr. Venables, the class teacher, was giving out pieces of paper. "This morning," he said as he moved round the room, "I want you to write down everything you know about the solar system." As it happened, Dinah knew a great deal about the solar system, but she had no intention of writing it all down. That would be asking for trouble. She settled down to consider what she could safely say, but before she had thought about it at all, she found herself writing in strange, stiff little sentences. "The planets of the solar system are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto." A little bit old, this book. The sun is the star of the solar system. The Earth is 0.137 light hours from the sun. The magnitude of the sun is -29.6. She stopped. With an effort, and stared at the last sentence she'd written. But I didn't know that, she thought. She never remembered seeing that particular information before. Yet there it was, confidently written down on her piece of paper, as though someone had slipped it into her head without her knowing. Cautiously, she leaned sideways to glance at the paper on the desk next to her. The boy beside her had just written the magnitude of the sun is minus 29.6. Although the classroom was warm, she found herself shivering. Everyone in the room was scribbling busily, and she was suddenly sure that they had all just written the magnitude of the sun is minus 29.6. Do you remember in the last chapter, Harvey heard them say minus 29.6? 30 little robots, all obediently writing down the same things. Things that had been put into their heads for them. The only person who was not writing was Lloyd. He was chewing the end of his pencil, as if he did not know very much about the solar system. Dinah let herself feel a little quiver of mean pleasure that he was in trouble. Then she started to write again, and the information went pouring out. Most of it she knew, but every now and then came a little bit that she did not. And as she wrote, she pursed her lips together determinedly. Things were getting queerer and queerer, and she would find out why. She would. At playtime, she put on her hat and coat and marched out onto the playground, ready to carry out her plan. Without speaking to anyone, she knelt down and began to make a heap of snowballs, intending to throw them when she had a pile of 10. But she had reckoned without Harvey. When she was only halfway through, he came bounding across to her, past all the groups of children chanting tables and dates. "Oh, Di, you remembered!" "What?" She looked up vaguely. "You remembered! We really are going to have a snowball fight." Suddenly she realised what she had done. "No, Harvey, I didn't mean you." "Don't be a spoilsport." He bent down and picked up 2 of the snowballs that she had made. Almost at once, Lloyd was there. He came bounding across the playground at top speed. "H, what are you doing?" "Oh, we're going to have a snowball fight," Harvey said. "It's Di's idea." "Don't be an idiot," he said, knocking the snowballs out of his hands. "Let her get into trouble if she wants to, but don't you get mixed up with it." "That's right," Dinah said. She did not realise how odd it sounded until Lloyd was staring at her. She stared back defiantly, and while the 2 of them were distracted, Harvey stooped down, picked up 2 more snowballs. "I think you're both rotten," he shouted, "and I will have a snowball fight. The snow might all be gone by tomorrow." His yell sounded eerily loud amongst the mutters in the playground. As he drew his right arm back to throw, Lloyd shouted warningly, "H, no!" And from the other side of the playground came the sound of Ian's voice calling, "Watch out, you lot!" But it was too late. A total silence fell over the playground. The 2 snowballs flew from Harvey's gloved hands and spattered down messily, one on Lloyd's coat and one on Dinah's. "Lloyd and Harvey Hunter, Dinah Glass, come here!" bellowed a voice from the steps. On the steps, the prefects were staring at them, a row of 6 stern faces. Slowly, Lloyd, Harvey and Dinah walked to the foot of the steps and stood looking up. "Wait there," Rose said curtly. "We'll deal with you once the others have gone inside." And that's where we leave chapter 6. Oh, I wonder what's going to happen. So Dinah's plan's been scuppered, Harvey's intervened, and he's thrown the snowballs, which mean at least he and the others have got in trouble rather than just Dinah. And you'll have to wait until the next chapter to find out what happens to them from the prefects. Harvey. Well, let's have a look who's been watching with us. We've had Nicholas James, Rissa Roberts. Hello, Rissa Roberts. Karen from the early years is watching as well. Hello, Karen. Dave Williams. Oh, hello, Dave from Calon FM. Wonderful. And John Mann, my old PE teacher. Noswaitha, good evening to you. Well, thank you all for joining us today for today's chapter. We hope that you'll join us next time for what happens to Harvey, Lloyd and Dinah in The Demon Headmaster. Oh, and Andrew David Jones has just joined us as well from Kai Park Partnership. Hello, Andrew. Lovely for you to join us. Well, all that leaves me to say is breuddwyddion dda, sweet dreams, nos da, good night, diolch am wylio, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you all very soon. Ta-ta everyone.